Mr. Chairman, I shall plead that I rest on already established protocol. This speech is fairly long, and I think it is important that I delve into it as quickly as possible. If I save time, I will make the acknowledgements in the end. The new Merriam-Webster dictionary describes structure as an arrangement or relationship of elements in a substance, body, or system. Arising from this definition and in reference to a body or system like the Nigerian Federation, so restructuring simply defined would mean a rearrangement of the features of our Constitution, a revisit to the structure of our Constitution, taking into account its history, its workability, and imperative changes that must be made to it. Nigeria, a country of 371 ethnic groups, a total area of 923,773 square kilometers, and an estimated population ranging from 150 to 170 million, is the most populous country in Africa, larger than the combined populations of 16 other countries in West Africa, and 1 out of every 4 persons in Africa lives in Nigeria. Nigeria's constitutional history began with the British trading interests in Nigeria. The British, in its pursuit of legitimate commerce, increasingly asserted and seized power of jurisdiction over parts of Nigeria by entering into treaties of cession with our local chiefs. In 1849, John B. Croft was appointed British consul in the area of the Bights of Benin and Biafra to superintend British trading interests. In a lecture titled "The Amalgamation of Nigeria Was a Fraud," given by Chief Richard Akingide, former Attorney General and Minister of Justice, on the 9th of July 2000, Chief Richard Akingide narrated the conduct of the British administrators in activities leading up to the amalgamation of Northern and Southern Protectorates of Nigeria, depicting them as insincere, favoritic of the North, and planting the seeds of instability in Nigeria. Part of that speech reads thus, and I will quote it extensively. Our problems did not start yesterday. It started about 1884. Lord Lugard came here about 1894. And many people did not know that Major Lugard was not originally employed by the British government. He was employed by companies. First, he was employed by the East Indian Company, then Royal Eastern Company, and subsequently Royal Niger Company. It was from the Royal Niger Company that he transferred to the British government. Unless you know this background, like Ijide says, you will not know the root of our causes of our problems. The interest of the Europeans in Africa, and indeed Nigeria, was economic, and still is economic. They have no permanent friends and no permanent interests. Neither their interests nor their friends are permanent. Nigeria was created as a British sphere of interest for business. In 1898, Lugard formed the West African Frontier Force, initially with 2,000 soldiers, and that was the beginning of our problems. Anybody who wants to know the root cause of our coups, our present problems, and who does not know the evolution of Nigeria would just be looking at the matter superficially. Our problems started from that time, and Lugard was what they call at that time imperialist. Akingide continues. When Lugard formed West African Frontier Force with 2,000 troops, about 90% of them were from the north of Nigeria, mainly from the Middle Belt. And his dispatches to London between that time and January 1914 were extremely interesting. Lugard came here for a purpose, and that purpose was British interest. Between 1898 and 1914, he sent a number of dispatches to London, which led to the amalgamation of 1914, which order in council was drawn up in November preceding his promulgation in January 1914. In those dispatches, Lugard said a number of things which are the root causes of yesterday and today's problems. The British needed the railway from the north to the coast in the interest of British business. Amalgamation of the South, not the people, became of crucial importance to British interest. He said the North and the South should be amalgamated. Southern Nigeria came into existence in January 1900. If you remember, he says, Sokoto was conquered in 1903. So there was no question of a Nigeria at that time. After the conquest of Sokoto, they were able to create the Northern Nigerian Protectorate. Lugard went full blast and created what was to be known as the Protectorate of Northern Nigeria. What is critical and important that the persons Lugard gave the reasons Lugard gave in his dispatches. He said the North is poor and they have no resources to run the Protectorate of the North, that they have no access to the sea, and that the South has resources and educated people. The first Yoruba lawyer was called to the bar in 1861. Therefore, because it was not the policy of the British government to bring the taxpayers' money to run the Protectorate, it was in the interest of the British business and British taxpayers that there should be amalgamation. But what the British amalgamated was the administration of the North and the South, and not the people of the North and the people of the South. That is one of the root causes of the problem of Nigeria and of Nigerians. He goes on. When the amalgamation took effect, the British government sealed off the South from the North. And between 1914 and 1960, a period of 46 years, the British allowed minimum contact between the North and the South, because it was not in the British interest that they not be allowed to be polluted by the educated South. That was the basis on which we got our independence in 1960, when he was in Parliament, which he entered in December 1959. When the North formed the political party, as Kinjide says, Northern leaders called it Northern People's Congress. They didn't call it Nigerian People's Congress. That was in accordance with the dictum and policies of Lugard. When Aminu Kano formed his own party, he called it Northern Elements Program. In fact, the so-called Nigeria created in 94, according to Akinjide, was a complete fraud. It was created not in the interest of Nigeria or Nigerians, but in the interest of the British. And what were the structures created? The structures created were as follows. Northern Nigeria was to represent England in their conception, Western Nigeria, Wales, Eastern Nigeria, Scotland. In the British structure, England had permanent majority in the House of Commons. There was no way Wales could ever dominate England, neither could Scotland dominate the British. But they were very shrewd. They would allow a Scottish man to become Prime Minister, allow a Welshman to become Prime Minister in London, but the fact remains that the actual power rested in England. That was what Lord Lugard created in Nigeria, a permanent majority for the North. The population figure of the North was also a fraud. In fact, a British civil servant who was involved in the fraud was trying to expose it, but was never allowed to publish it. The analysis is as follows. If you look at the map of West Africa, starting from Mauritania to Cameroon, and take a population of each country as you move from the coast to the savannah, the population decreases. Or conversely, as you come from the deserts to the coast, right from Mauritania to Cameroon, the population increases. The only exception throughout this zone is Nigeria. Nigeria is the only zone whereby you grow from coast to the north and the population increases. And you come from the north to the coast and the population decreases. Well, geographers, anthropologists and population experts, draw your conclusion. Someone has told me that last population census was done by computer. What nonsense. A computer is as good as a programmer. A computer will produce what you ask it to produce. End of quotes, Richard Akinjide. Alhaji Ahmadu Bello, former premier of Northern Nigeria, after independence, when the British handed over the North, said as follows. The new nation called Nigeria should be the estate of our great-grandfather Osman Napoleon. We must ruthlessly prevent a change of power. We use the minorities of the North as willing tools and the South as a conquered territory, and never allow them to rule over us, and never allow them to have control over their future. Furthermore, Major General Alexander Madueko, commander of the Biafran Army, in his book, The Nigerian Revolution and the Biafra War, stated as follows, and I quote, The Federation of Nigeria exists as it does today, as it exists today, has never really been one homogeneous country. But its widely different peoples and tribes are yet to find any basis for true unity. The unfortunate yet obvious fact notwithstanding, the former colonial master had to keep the country one in order to effectively control his vital economic interests, concentrated merely in the more advanced and politically unreliable South. Thus, for administrative convenience, northern and southern Nigeria became amalgamated in 1914. Now, I'm skipping a bit of this. On the issue of structure of Nigeria as designed by the British, I'm on page 9, to give the North more seats and votes in the National Assembly in order to dominate the other region. Frederick Forsyth, the British professional journalist, in his well-researched work, explained as follows. In 1944 to 45, Sir Arthur Richards, now Lord Milverton, a man who, according to contemporary descriptions, despite his love for the North, managed to make himself unpopular, made a tour of the North of the country, sounding out local opinion about constitutional reform. It was the North that made it clear, and has maintained this attitude ever since, that it did not want amalgamation with the South. The North agreed to go along the basis that, 1, the principle of separate regional development should be enshrined in the new constitution. 2, that the North should have nearly 50% of the seats in the legislature. The opposition of the North to amalgamation with the South, giving voice to numerous statements by their leaders ever since, was in 1947 expressed by one of the northern members of the House of Representatives, Madam Abubakar Tafawa Balewa, may his soul rest in peace, who later became our Prime Minister. He said, that I quote, "We do not want, sir, our southern neighbors to interfere in our development. I should like to make it clear to you that if the British quitted Nigeria now at this stage, the Northerners will continue their uninterrupted conquest to the sea." Northern leaders, Forsyth continued, made no secret of their separatist wish. After Richards came Sir John Macpherson, who introduced a new virtually unitary constitution, but the damage had already been done. The North had learned that it could get its way by threatening to pull out of Nigeria. Now, further down the paragraph, Barrister Emeka Emekesiri, writing in his Biafra or Nigeria Presidency, What the Igbos Want, reviewed these pre-British developments and concluded, it was not the British who did the negotiation, but the northern leaders using the threat of breaking away from Nigeria. They were given more seats in the central legislature to appease them. If the leaders of the other tribes had rejected the northern terms and conditions for agreeing to join the Nigerian Union, the North would not have dominated the politics of Nigeria. Now, Harold Smith granted interview to Tell Magazine in 2005 and to Ben Television in 2007, where he said, and I quote, I am in my 80s now, I am aged. In the past, they did not want me to say anything. But now, I do not want to go to my grave without telling the truth about the atrocities perpetrated in Africa by the colonialists. Our agenda was to completely exploit Africa. Nigeria was my duty post. When we assessed Nigeria, this was what we found in southern regions: strength, intelligence, determination to succeed, well-established history, complex but focused lifestyle, great hope and aspiration. The East is good in business and technology. The West is good in administration, commerce, law, medicine, but it was a pity we planned our agenda to give power at all costs to the Northerners. They seemed to be submissive and silly of a kind. Our mission was accomplished by destroying the opposition at all fronts. The West led in the fight for the independence, and we punished them for asking for freedom. They will not rule Nigeria. The census result was announced before they were counted. Despite seeing vast land and no human but cattle in the north, we still gave the north 55 million instead of 32 million. This was to be used to maintain their majority votes and future power base. The North was seriously encouraged to go into military because we believed that the South would attain Western education, but future leaders would always come from military background. Their traditional rulers were made to
to be influential and superhuman. The Northerners were given accelerated promotions both in military and civil service to justify their superiority over the South. Everything was to work against the South. We truncated their good plan for the future. I was very sorry for Action Group. It was a great party, too much for the African standard. We planned to destroy Awolowo and Azikiwe, the West and the East, and sow the seed of discord amongst them. We tricked Zik into accepting to be president, having known that Balewa would be the main man with power. Awolowo had to go to jail to cripple his genius plan for Nigeria. The British really let Nigeria down. When I see Nigerians being accused of fraud, and from what I saw on the streets of Lagos, the British were the worst fraudsters. If the northern leaders have any agenda for Nigeria at all, sadly, it is for the North and nothing for Nigeria. The British look after the British people, and this is so all over the world. I still curiously and sorrowfully see now that the British have not let go of Nigeria, her wealth, potentials, and future. Nigeria, a great nation, was crippled because of military juntas or corrupt leaders. Was not crippled because of military juntas or corrupt leaders alone, but by the British and the American fear of Nigeria's great future. The fear of the place that would be our dumping ground really occupied our minds. It was my duty to carry out all of this as I was loyal to my country. End of quote. Harold Smith. Well, between 1914 and 1960, we had 6 British rulers, ending with Macpherson, under whom there was a constitutional conference in 1953 and another one in 1954. After the 54 conference, a constitution was agreed to, which gave birth to the federal exclusive authority and control of defense, money, immigration, shipping, aviation, census, police, trade and commerce, communication, custom, transport, among others, and assigned the residual matters, not in the exclusive or concurrent list, to the regions. Thereafter, self-government was granted to West and Eastern regions on their demand, while Lagos emerged as a federal territory with direct representation in the central legislature. Northern Nigeria assumed self-government in 1958. Another constitutional conference was held in 1958, which paved the way for Nigeria's independence in October 1, 1960, and subsequently a Republican Constitution in 1963. Another threat, apart from the British, that confronted Nigeria at this period was ethnic politics. 3 major political parties, Action Group, NPC and NCNC, had strong following in the North, in the West and the East. Other parties, NEPU and NPC, were in restricted areas of the North. Every attempt at expansion by each of the parties or their leaders was resisted seriously. The Zik example in Western Nigeria and the Taka example in Northern Nigeria are typical examples. Mr. Chairman, if I may just digress, I enjoyed intellectual patrimony from Zik, and I was privileged in my younger age to visit him regularly. And his wife here used to open the back door for me. And he used to take me to his library, and he used to read his diary to me. And I didn't understand why he was doing that. But he and my father were close friends. And when he came to this crisis of Western Nigeria, he dropped the thing and said to me, you know, I was in Lagos City Council, and we went on to run for election in Western Nigeria. And my party, the NCNC and the Parapo, we had an alliance in which we invaded Northern Nigeria and won British. And on his right was Chief Awolowo. And along with me were recently elected members of the NCNC and the Parapo. And on the right was the leader of the Action Group, Chief Obafemi Awolowo, and his members. As soon as the House was called to order, Chief Awolowo raised the point of order. And he said to the leader of government business, it is my view that that a roll call of members be taken in order to remove any iota of doubt as to who should form the government of Western Nigeria. He said he looked around and he thought this was unnecessary. because it was obvious that there were more people on his side than there were on the side of Chief Awolowo. But in order to fulfill all righteousness, he got up and said, Your Excellency, it should have been axiomatic to the leader of the opposition. But in order to remove any iota of doubt in his mind as to who should form the government of Western Nigeria, I agree that a roll call should be taken. He said, unfortunately, I didn't know there was a conspiracy behind it. He said they began in alphabetical order. Augustus, Adisa, Moshood, Akindoye. Akindoye bowed to him, bowed to the leader of government business, and crossed over to the side of Awolowo and took his seat there. And one by one, out of press and so on, he told me a very interesting story of how Okochiebu came with a very long loincloth and in all glamour, hoping to form the government of Western Nigeria. And when this happened, he removed, nobody knew when he removed his loincloth. But he said to me, my son, in moments of despair, find the courage inside you. I quickly rallied the troops, and we went to Mako Hall and made the speech, betrayed but not defeated. And he handed over a copy of the book to me.